And JT, I wanted to, in today's warm up, talk one final time, give a final word on the week one officiating. Not here to beat a dead horse. I want to give an overview on my thoughts on the situation, but more importantly, I want to talk about what I think is the right way to complain about refereeing in the NFL. And there's a way that people complain about refs that I think is contrite and overdone and lame. And there's a way that people don't typically complain about refs that they should do more, in my opinion. So before I talk about that opinion of mine, I want to address, obviously the talk of officiating from game one for the Titans was the clearly fumbled ball out of Derek Carr's hand on the Arden Key strip sack fumble, recovered by Kevin Byard, run back for a touchdown. And then the referees not only blow the run back and ball on the play dead, they then go to review the play after Mike Vrabel challenges the call, and they decide not only were they right to blow the play dead, but it was an incomplete pass. It was not a fumbled ball where clearly on the pull back of the motion, Derek Carr loses control of the ball, and the ball is propelled forward only by a fist or side of hand. There was no control of the ball by Derek Carr on the follow through, which is what is required for it to be an incomplete pass. If the passer has control of the ball coming forward, it's incomplete. If they don't, it's a fumble. And clearly it was a fumble that was propelled forward by Derek Carr's hand, recovered by Kevin Byard. And so not only did they very foolishly and inexplicably blow the play dead early, which again is refereeing 101. They are taught, they are instructed as NFL referees, when in doubt in these situations, you let the play through. You let it happen. You let it play out so that you can easily then, because say it was an incomplete pass, JT. What would have been the harm of letting that play out? Kevin Byard runs the ball back. It's ruled a touchdown. You review the play. Turns out it's an incomplete pass. No harm, no foul. You bring it back. It's Saints ball again to kick their field goal. Everything is right in the universe. When you blow the ball dead, you blow the play dead, it potentially steals points and or possession and or return yardage from the defensive team that made the play. And that's what happened to the Titans. And then the referees doubled down. And Dean Blandino, an NFL rules official, that if you've paid attention to the NFL at all, you're familiar with Dean and his work. He does some work with the 33rd Team now, a newer publication in the NFL media space. He did a video yesterday breaking down the specifics of this play, what happened, what the ruling was, and then gave his opinion on why it was a really bad call and an incorrect call. And I put out a thread, a tweet, and that is what I want to talk about here, about how this was not a horribly incorrect call. Like, JT, we have seen more times than any football fan can count referees just making the wrong call, a matter of human error, a matter of them maybe just being bad at their job or in a moment making a horrendous mistake. But there's reason to believe that, yeah, they really believe what they're saying. They messed up. They got it wrong. That's not what happened here. What happened here was really simple to me. The refs effed up. And they knew that they effed up, right? They blew the play dead prematurely, inexplicably. Can't tell you why, but they did. And they effed up, and they realized it in that moment. They went to review the play upon Mike Vrabel's challenge and clearly realized, because they're not blind, they're not dumb, they realized they messed up not only by blowing the ball dead early, but by calling it an incomplete pass, because clearly on the replay in slow motion, it's not, there's just no argument. It is by the book, definitionally a fumble, not an incomplete pass. And so they realized they were wrong on both accounts, but they did not care. They didn't. They kept the ruling on the field as called, because to reverse the ruling would be an admission of taking away a Titans touchdown. And they simply would not make that admission and or assume such major fault in the course of the game. And so they doubled down. They doubled down on their wrongness in a sad and very easily seen through attempt to save face here. And Mike Vrabel really kind of alluded to it when we asked him about this in his press conference on Monday, when we talked about this play in particular. And he said, and I would give you the quote verbatim, but essentially paraphrasing, he said, they're never going to call that back. When they've blown the ball dead, the ruling on the field is going to stand, no matter how blatantly obvious it is upon replay. They're never going to call that back because they're not going to undermine their own authority, the referees, in admitting their mistake there. And so this was not an incomplete call, or an incorrect call, rather. It was a lie. It was a bold-faced lie. And that's what happened here. And you should, as fans, be really upset about that. Now, a number of Saints fans replied to that tweet of mine, saying, one in particular said, as a longtime Saints fan, we are often told to get over it when stuff like this happens. And I think back to the Saints getting absolutely screwed out of a Super Bowl berth just a couple of seasons ago, the NFC Championship game against the Jared Goff Rams. Was it 2017, the 2016-17 year? The obvious blatant pass interference call that was such a massive story that for one season we decided pass interference was going to be reviewable, and then that was a nightmare, so we undid that. But the Saints have gotten their fair share of all-time screw jobs on officiating. So, like, I get it. I sympathize. I really do. And this Saints fan said, we're told to get over it when this stuff happens, and that I offer you the same advice. Get over it. And my response to that is simply, the Titans are responsible for losing this game. I feel like I was pretty clear about that online. I feel like I was pretty clear about that on Monday's episode of the Hot Read podcast. The Titans are at fault. Like they as much as the Saints or the referees screwed them over in this game, it is the Titans' fault for having lost that game. I don't think anybody can really argue that. Also, divorced from that, separate from that, the referees made an unforgivable mistake here. They told a bold-faced lie, and they were solely responsible for a 10-point swing. Both things can be, and in this case, I think very clearly are true. And so that brings me to my second point, in that I think people are too often blaming referees for losses. Like I said on Monday's show, nobody likes blame the ref guy. Nobody does, because it's every team in the history of the NFL and for the foreseeable future of the history of the NFL will be regularly screwed over by calls. It happens. There's human error involved. So nobody likes blaming the refs because it's an out. It's a cop, right? It's a lame excuse. But what isn't done enough, in my opinion, is what I'm trying to do here, and trying to make, you can divorce the two things of, hey, your team cost itself the game. Like, your team should have won the game. Very, very rarely can you point to the ref single-handedly losing a game for a team. In fact, in the NFL, I'd argue you never can, unless it's truly just like they were paid off. Like, it's an never before seen situation where referees were truly paid off. I don't think it's ever been the case that the referees actually cost a team a game more than the team cost themselves a game. But you should be relentlessly ripping into refs whenever they do a horrendous job. Like, you can just complain about, rip into, clown referees, demand change, demand better, demand consequences for referees when they do a really, really bad job. That's completely fair. And so if you make clear that, hey, I don't think that they cost my team the game, I do think that they did a horrible job. That's something that we should do more of, and that distinction should be made. One person commented, and the last thing I want to say on this, one person said that things like this play were the reason that most people swear that the league is rigged. I'm not so sure myself. Rigged is a step too far. Like, I'm not sitting here I'm saying the referees lied here. I want to make it clear, I'm not implying that the refs were bought off, and it's not that deep. It's not a conspiracy. This is not a tinfoil hats moment. That implies forethought, right? If it's rigged, the refs didn't come into this game planning to screw the Titans or make calls slanted towards the Saints. None of that. It's not happening in the NFL. It's like the distinction between first and second degree murder. Like, first degree murder, you planned it out. Like, it's premeditated, right? They're responsible for second degree bad refereeing, where it was in a moment of passion, in a fit of rage, they made a mistake, and it cost this team. It wasn't a premeditated hit on one team in particular. It just happened, and it cost one team greatly, and they are guilty of that in a big way. So whenever there's bad refereeing in the NFL, no, it's not a rigged job. Nobody's bought off, but it is second degree bad officiating in the sense that they made a really bad mistake, and here they decided to double down on it, and it was ridiculous. So you should rip refs more often, not for costing you games, but for being really bad at their jobs and demanding better for them. All right, that is the warm-up for us today. And JT, I've seen the comment section going crazy. Have no idea what it's been saying, if it has anything to do with the refereeing situation. Are all of these guys talking about our takes for today, or is there anything that we need to address before we move on to the hot read?
I mean, it is on the reffing situation, which we can move on. I just think there are some points, like, it was very cathartic to see the Titans and Saints kind of mishap right there play out, where they blew the whistle. And then, as Dorito Lover points out, the reffing in the Jaguars game was equally as bad, because I mean, the Colts punching that ball out, even though like everyone was kind of standing around, didn't know what happened. And then that ends up just gifting the Colts a touchdown. Like,
but the refs in that game did the right thing. They let it play out. That's what you're supposed to do. So and those two things happened, what, maybe 20 minutes apart from each other? Like they were the juxtaposition there was a little bit on the nose, how similar those things were and how close in time they were to each other. And it just made for a more frustrating experience.
And then finally, Alex Titan says, crazy to think how different the game plays out if they get that call right. Probably see a lot more Henry and a lot less Tannehill mistakes playing with a lead. I would tend to agree on that, because it was a massive swing in points to the other team. So, I mean, yeah, but like you said, there was so much more.
Maybe Ryan Tannehill shouldn't throw 3 interceptions. Yes. Like that's where, that's where you then realize, yeah, okay, so the Titans did lose the game. Yeah, that's how that works.
But we can move on now.